All right, so today we're diving into the story of an organization called the Janatha Garage. Now, when you hear garage, you think wrenches, oil, fixing cars, right? Well, this place started out just like that, but it ended up dealing in something way more complex. We're talking about justice.
Daring should be added to goodness. Now, that's not just a nice saying. It was their founding principle, and that single philosophy would end up guiding them down a truly remarkable and, a pretty dangerous path. Okay, let's get into it.
So, how did it all begin? Well, it started out as a simple mechanic shop, founded by two brothers who moved to the city just trying to make a better life for themselves. But here's the thing. Their reputation for being good people, for working hard, it got around. And pretty soon, people weren't just bringing them their broken down bikes. They started bringing them their broken lives. The garage became this kind of unofficial court of last resort, the place you went when the system had completely failed you.
So you have this place that's built on goodness. But what happens when goodness just isn't enough? Well, a turning point came, a real tragedy that struck their community. And it forced the garage's leader, a man named Satyam, to confront a really brutal reality.
So here's what happened. A mechanic's daughter was brutally assaulted and killed by four powerful, influential men. And because of their power, they just walked free. They manipulated the system, made it all look like a simple road accident. The community was just helpless. And this was the moment everything changed. Satyam and his crew, they delivered their own justice. An eye for an eye. Their reasoning was simple and brutal. They died in the way how that girl died. If that was an accident, this is too. Yeah, if she was killed, these people too. I mean, with that single act, they created a new, unwritten law. The garage wasn't just a workshop anymore. It had become a tribunal. Okay, so let's hit pause on that for a second. Because while the garage is forging its own brand of justice, a totally different kind of fight is taking shape in another city. Let's switch gears and meet Anand, an environmental activist living in Mumbai. See, Anand's fight wasn't really with individuals. His whole philosophy was that we're just tenants on this earth, and we have to pass it on to the next generation in one piece. So he was fighting against systems, pollution, corporate greed, the destruction of nature itself. And right here, you can see the huge conflict taking shape. On one side, you've got Janatha Garage delivering direct, often violent justice to individuals. On the other side, you have Anand pushing for systemic, nonviolent change for the environment. We're talking two completely different ways of trying to fix a broken world. So with two powerful forces like these, you just know they're going to crash into each other eventually, right? Well, they were set on a collision course, and the spark that lit the whole thing off was an illegal mining operation. So Anand, just doing his activist work, finds this illegal quarry that's just destroying the local environment. And guess who's running the project? Satyam's own son, Raghava. So, of course, Anand confronts him, but he's met with violence. And that forces a showdown that brings him right to the front door of the Janatha Garage. Now, this is what's so amazing. Anand is completely unafraid. He walks right up to the patriarch, to Satyam himself, and basically tells him, a small repair is needed for your son. If I know you're acting like this, I'll have to repair you and Janatha Garage too. I mean, the sheer nerve. And you'd think Satyam would be furious, right? Nope. He's actually impressed by Anand's courage, his conviction. So the aging leader makes him an unbelievable offer. He wants Anand to take over the Janatha Garage. I mean, can you even imagine? This puts Anand in an impossible position. It forces him to ask himself, could an environmentalist who fights broken systems really lead an organization that delivers justice by hand? It was the most difficult decision of his life, a choice between two completely different futures. So on one hand, he has his personal life, the woman he loves, Bougie. On the other, the garage. He feels this pull, saying, it's impossible for me to live without this. In the end, he chooses the garage, sacrificing his own happiness for what he now sees as a greater purpose. So as the new leader, Anand immediately starts to blend his philosophy with the garage's mission. Check this out. An honest official is being threatened by corruption. Now, the old garage might have used force, but what does Anand do? He just accompanies the guy, offering nothing but his presence. And that simple act empowers the man's colleagues to stand with him too. And just like that, the corrupt plan is defeated without a single act of violence. But Anand's greatest test, his real trial by fire, was still coming. A series of deadly bomb blasts rocks the city, and the investigation into this horrible tragedy leads right back to the garage itself. Well, this brings up the ultimate question, doesn't it? What do you do when the enemy is family? Because the investigation revealed a horrifying truth. The man behind the attacks was Raghava, Satyam's own son. He'd orchestrated the whole thing, the bombings, everything, all to destabilize the government for his own political and financial gain. He even murdered one of the garage's own mechanics just to cover his tracks. He had betrayed everything his father built. Imagine being Satyam in that moment. Absolutely heartbroken. But he knows the rules of the garage are absolute. There can't be any exceptions. He says it himself. Janatha Garage won't leave anyone, even if he's my son too. And so, in this final tragic act, it falls to Anand to carry out the sentence on Raghava, as his own father watches. The very principles of the garage demanded the ultimate sacrifice, shattering its own family to uphold what it stood for. And that leaves us with this huge, profound question at the end of it all. When justice is delivered by hand, when it's this personal and this brutal, who repairs the repairman? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, if some damage can ever truly be fixed.